Lifted KC, Show Me You Care KC, and the Strongest Man in the Room present the Absence of a Father Workshop, Saturday, July 15th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Lucille H. Bluford Library at 3050 Prospect Avenue in Kansas City, Missouri. Available for all girls aged 13 and up. Join us as we help set the bar that so many of our young girls in the community never get to witness. Featuring guest speakers and appearances by Ryan Harvey, Pharaoh Bam, Jay Todd, and Osco Bolton III. The Absence of a Father Workshop, Saturday, July 15th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Tickets available now at Eventbrite, and for more information, contact 816-844-5999. The time for our men to step up is now.
Hello, everyone. I know everybody's mainly on mute. I just want to kick off our grieving session by introducing myself. My name is Devin Elise. I have a local nonprofit called Lifted KC where we focus on mental health with emphasis on men creating and providing safe spaces for our men to get the resources and tools that they need to also create a healthy healing journey. So I just want to first thank everybody for taking time out their day to be with us, to grieve together, grow together, love each other, love ourselves. So pat yourself on the back for even taking the step to be here with us. My week has been a little heavy, if I can be honest. I tend to think that having moved away from Kansas City, it will be a little bit lighter when dealing with grief. But it seems to be a little bit more harder because I don't have that family support to hug on, love on when we're going through. And then also seeing that this week we lost another yet very influential man in our community, always uplifting, encouraging others through social media and in person for that matter. So I know we started a prayer list. So if you guys want to check the chat, I'll kind of jump in there in a second. But we started a prayer list where if you have a loved one or a family member, friend whose name you want us to lift up, whether we're praying that their soul rest or we're praying for comfort for the friends and family members that are left behind to grieve and mourn the loss of our loved ones, make sure you drop those names in the chat. I just want to lift up the family, the Thomas family right now. Milt Thomas, the guy that I just talked about, was really influential in our community. He is the brother of William and Joey, the Know Your Joey Foundation, or Joey Cuts, however you guys may know him. But he is their eldest brother, and he went on to glory yesterday, I believe. So I want to kind of kick the conversation off because I am intrigued by the numbers that attended today. So if you feel compelled to share, introduce yourself and tell us what brought you into grieving today.
Check, check. Can y'all hear me? Check,
Yeah,
check. Can y'all
yeah, I
hear
hear
me?
you. Go ahead.
How you doing, Miss Devin?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Hanging in there, hanging in there. You said, I just want to double check for the Thomas family. You said his first name was Milt,
Uh-huh.
Milt.
Yep. Nope, Thomas.
Okay. Okay, I have them added to the list. Welcome everybody. For anybody that's just now joining us, again, we're putting together a prayer list to say their name list. So I'm tasked with gathering the names so that we can get this on a list. So if you have any loved ones that you want to add to the list, feel free to do so. For me, I've been grieving for 30 years plus, starting with my mother. So that was the first name I wanted to add to the list. And like Ms. Devin said, it takes a lot of courage just for us to even come together and then open up and be vulnerable in these sorts of spaces. So I welcome everybody that's here, and hopefully we have a good session tonight.
Well, I don't want to be first, but I will be. Welcome. I appreciate y'all. My name is Donald. I am a local barber here in Kansas City, born and raised. Uh, and my homie, Holly Rod, we go back 20 plus years. So, I just want to come in and support and love on everybody.
Appreciate you. Welcome, Mr. Donald.
No doubt. Right on, D Wood. Good to hear your voice, bro.
Glad to be
Good to
here,
hear your
man.
voice, man.
Appreciate you.
You know, we've all seen a lot, man. We've all lost a lot of folks throughout the years, and everybody that's spent any type of time in Kansas City truly does understand, man, that life is really precious, and so I think that spaces like this are very important for us in the community, and we just appreciate you joining us tonight, Mr. Wood. Right on.
All right, so if anybody, I'm just gonna kind of throw random questions out, because I know we kind of all look at grieving different, and you know, just like a healing journey, our grieving journey is different from person to person. It's different from situation, and it's definitely different based on who we're grieving. So I just kind of want to know. Sometimes I just want to check myself when we're talking about grieving or grieving. Like, what are the initial feelings that we're experiencing? Like,
I can answer that. A lot of times, I think when it comes to grieving loved ones, I think it's really it's inevitable, but I think death is misunderstood. We all got our own beliefs and our own understanding about life, but no one really, I guess you could say that I've known that's ever come back to life from death except for Jesus Christ. Uh, that's where, my faith lies. That's where, my grievance lies when it comes to death. I lost my mother back in 2019. Uh, and I don't even know if I've even truly even grieved yet. I think a lot of the reason has to be that I have a solid foundation to stand on to understand that, death is just the beginning in my thought process and my understanding. It's a temporary thing that we have to deal with, based off of all the I guess you could say immorality, the pride, the seven deadly sins and things like that. So, that's where I keep my faith in it, and I think that's what kind of helps me to understand what death is and how to deal with it.
that's huge because I think that's my current struggle. Like, I go back and forth because I too am spiritual and I believe in Jesus Christ. I understand. My bad. I think it's. I forgot. I lost my thought. I'm sorry, but I was going to say that the issue for me is I had somebody tell me when my grandparent died, like, she passed away from cancer, and it was just like, why are you so sad? And you knew she was dying, and I was real conflicted with that statement because I knew it sounded um insensitive, but coming from the person, I know that they really didn't mean no harm by what they were saying. It was more kind of like a you knew it was coming, so why haven't you prepared yourself? And I'm just wondering, is there really a true way to prepare yourself? Like, I understand wholeheartedly spiritually that the only thing that's promised in life is death, but how do you really prepare yourself for losing a loved one? And this isn't talking about the unexpected deaths. This is talking about, like, I mean, I guess it kind of is, because at the end of the day, I just said, like, death is promised with life. So how do we get to a place where we try to create our thoughts to be kind of where Donald was, like, I have my faith is there, so I understand that death is going to come, so that it doesn't impact me as much. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and chime in on that. Man, for me, I agree with what Donald said about um, people generally don't understand that. I'm one of those people. I'm people. Even for as long as I've been dealing with and just exposed to that concept of losing loved ones, it's never been something that I've truly been able to handle. I think that grieving is sort of the source of my struggle with mental health. So it's like the foundation that I always go back to. And, I like to think that I'm not alone in that. Even, considering people's spirituality and faith, losing somebody close to you is tough, I think, for everybody. For me personally, it even gets tough if it's not one of my loved ones. Like if it's, just seeing somebody that has lost somebody, a stranger, is tough for me to deal with. Ms. Devin, just to go back to your question, for me personally, I don't know how to prepare for that. I have been in situations where someone was lost suddenly, either due to violence or just some mishap with their health. But I've also had those situations where people were sick, where, like you said, you knew it was coming, and still I wasn't able to prepare myself. So my heart goes out to people just that are grieving in general, because, like you said, everybody grieves differently. Everybody is affected differently, and I know for me myself, it's not something that I've ever been able to prepare for. And what I mean by that is, whenever I get the news of somebody being lost, I always break down. It's always something that just takes me to my knees. Period. And it's something that's triggering as well. Like I can remember being at funerals recently within the last few years or so, and it's an emotional turmoil because sometimes you start to grieve about multiple people because you're triggered in kind of in that environment where people are sad and trying to say their last goodbyes, and so I don't know, it's a real tough concept.
You know, uh, it's funny you say that, about the differences, because we dealing with, you looking at us, what we call Generation X, where, we've dealt with multiple deaths, multiple funerals.
Hmm.
And, like my son, he just went to a funeral where he just buried one of his classmates. He's 16.
Hmm.
You know, then his aunt passed away. And I was kind of upset because my son kept sneaking and smoking weed, and I knew he was lying. So I had to sit down. First, I was upset because he was lying, but I had to think about it. I says it's got to be something else. Like if he know that I know he lying, why is he still lying? It's something different. So I sat down with him, and just had a heart to heart with him. And he told me, he said, Pop, he said, I ain't gonna lie to you. So I walk around like I'm okay, but I'm not. You know, that hit me hard. Uh, brought tears to my eyes actually. Cause I'm thinking that I'm fussing at him based off of discipline when really he's hurting. You know, so I told him, I said, well, son, I said, I tell you what, do not smoke outside of this house. If you need to smoke, smoke right here so I know you're safe. You know what I mean? And it hits different for us, especially because we're Generation X, but we don't even really truly even think about the young ones that's dealing with it.
Amen to that. Amen to that, man. And
Yeah, that.
uh, go ahead, Miss
Go ahead,
Devin.
bro. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I wanted to talk about the weed factor because for me, I lost my mother at 14, and I started smoking weed at 16, and I never looked back. I'm 44 now. So that is one of the ways that I cope. And I've heard, I had conversations with people over the years that have tried to deter me away from that. But it's never going to go away. It's been my main coping method just to calm my nerves. So, like, one of the things that I always talk to people close to me about is sort of my daily process, my daily routine. Ever since I lost my mother, every single day that I wake up, it's been over 30 years now. When I wake up, it's like I have to remind myself of certain loved ones that I've lost that are no longer here. Sometimes I wake up certain mornings, I've had a difficult night sleeping, where I just want to call my loved ones. I want to call my mom, I want to call my dad, my grandparents, and I can't do that. So it's tormenting sometimes just even waking up and trying to get out of bed because I have to regather, recalibrate my thoughts. And so that's something that even with the weed smoking, like it doesn't matter. That's something that I go through every single morning that I wake up, and without some sort of coping mechanism like the weed, like Donna was saying with his son, I don't even know what that would look like. I imagine it would look even worse. So that's my testimony. I definitely understand that, Mr. Wig, and I was kind of the same way as far as the age at which I started.
I kind of want to hit on 2 points that Donald brought up. One being, I think we're definitely living in a different world. Like I just don't remember as a kid growing up going to this many funerals, especially for my peers. So one of the takeaways is I encourage everybody to make sure that we are being intentional about loving on and doing check ins with our younger loved ones, even the ones that we come in contact with or interact with, um, time to time or on a daily basis. Because I also had my son kind of say something similar to me because two of his closest cousins have both transitioned, and he was just like, one day we was at the funeral, he was like, Mama, I don't understand why I'm burying my cousins. I thought we were supposed to be burying like the old people. And it was just like it dawned on me like death hits them different. Like I think as a Generation X, we're used to being in the middle. So, we're understanding to burying people older than us, and we're understanding to burying semi understanding to burying those younger than us. But I don't think our youth are in a position, or do they have the resources and support to really process what loss is and what that's supposed to look like. And that just kind of transitions me into the next thing that you guys were talking about, coping skills. Um, as a community, I just feel like we are taught to push through shit, like head up, chest out, keep it going, like they gone, keep moving. But I feel like that has been one of the most harmful tools that we have taught that we've been taught and that we are teaching our children and so forth. Like we really need to learn to process and be okay with failing at one process, trying another process. And for me, grieving, like Rodney, you kind of made me feel good because it's like when people die, like I just get this real dark feeling, and it doesn't have to be anybody that I know. And I always used to kind of think like, girl, you don't even know them. Why are you so sad? But I hate seeing people experience loss because at least I know what it did to me or what it does to me. So I can just imagine the pain, and I don't like seeing nobody in pain. So it is good to know that there are other people out there that share the same sentiments as me when it comes to seeing other people experience pain. Like I don't think it's normal to be so numb and desensitized like we are growing to be as a community when it comes to being compassionate and empathetic to our fellow brothers and sisters when they're hurting. Like send a text, send a message, hey, just checking on you. So I just want to, whoever wants to chime in again, what are some coping tools that you guys have used that you tried, didn't work, whatever the case may be, that maybe anybody on this chat can pick up and put in their toolbox to try and apply to their life?
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that, Miss Devin. For me, I already mentioned my main one. Something else that um, I stay attached to is music. Music, the vibrations, depending on what type of mood I'm in. I listen to a lot of music when I get in my deep stages of grieving. Some of the music I listen to, like for instance, there's quite a few songs. I lost my mother at 14, so I was really young. I didn't have a lot of time with her. But there are quite a few songs, quite a few artists that I remember my mother just completely ranting and raving about. And so sometimes when I listen to certain music, that helps kind of ease me a little bit. So music and weed are my two main coping mechanisms.
I'll say for me, um, I'm still learning how to cope. I'm not really sure what those coping things are, but I will say that I become very selfish and do the things that I love to do that really fills my heart with joy and makes me happy, regardless if I'm with a group of folks or by myself. I just make sure I do that one thing, whether it be sitting around my house by myself playing my game or writing music, listening to music, um, just whatever it is that I really maybe I just want to smoke weed all day. I'm not saying that's the thing to do, but like I said, I'm still learning. So in that regard, when it comes to coping and I'm in that moment, I become very selfish and I do what I like to do regardless.
Right on, GT. You just made me remember, and I don't know how I forgot, but that damn video game is another one of my. I mean, I guess that would be my top three because I'm a gamer. My mother, she died of stomach cancer in February of 1993. So the December prior to that, I received a Super Nintendo for Christmas, and I've been asking for a home game system for years. And looking back on it, I think that my mom and my grandma, took that opportunity because they knew that it was coming to kind of give me something to take my mind off of things. And it's been a tremendous part of my life. You know that, GT, because we in these gaming communities. And so definitely video gaming is another one of those places that I just kind of escape to just to help me with my thoughts and my emotions.
Hey, listen, boy, you ain't lying because you think you man king.
Hey, I'm the
You
gaming
you
king. Put
you
whatever games you
you
want.
swear to God. Like for real. Like, hey, I'm with that too, man. Call of Duty and watching the Chiefs whoop on the Broncos. So yeah, those two coping mechanisms right there, man. I'm trying to tell you. No,
Yeah,
but
man.
comedy too, man. Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
like it's I, the laugh, I don't know what it is about laughing with them endorphins. You know what I mean? Just think about, how much fun that you guys have when you at a funeral reminiscing with your loved ones. You know what I mean? It's
That's
always a
real.
laugh. You know what
That's
I mean? So
real.
laughing in comedy is a very, very good coping mechanism.
That's real.
Like you be at a at a hello everybody. I'm sorry, I've been kind of on mute. Just I'm kind of processing some stuff that's occurred myself, but being at a loved one's funeral and sitting next to that one relative that y'all shouldn't be sitting together and y'all just used to be laughing. Yeah,
Mhm.
I got a relative. Don't put me with her, man. Don't put me with her. And I be trying to be all serious and stuff, and she be So anyway, I got a question, and I don't know if any of you can answer it for me. Um, how do you know? And let me just put things in
I'm
perspective. I
sorry. I'm
lost my
sorry. You
mother
broke
when
up,
I
so
was
we
six
didn't
weeks
catch the
old.
question.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Is
Yeah, a little
that
better.
better?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. How do you grieve? Like, is there to grieve for someone that you don't know?
I'll go ahead and answer that. I'll go ahead and
And
answer that. You still kind of
What
cutting out, Miss Taraji.
can you try to type your
my
question in the
mother,
chat, Miss Taraji, so we can make sure we get the full
I,
question you're trying to ask because your phone's going in and out.
I didn't really know her. I said I didn't know
I don't think she can hear us. I think what
people.
she's asking, um, I think what she's asking about is the concept of grieving somebody that you may not necessarily know. And
I'm bad. I don't know if y'all call
I'll
bad.
chime in on that. Okay, so I'll chime in on that. Because I spoke about that earlier, and I think Ms. Devon also mentioned that. I think that that's something that is kind of an ongoing debate. You know, you see it a lot on social media and just even in your physical spaces. You do get those questions from people, right? When you may be sad about a celebrity, for instance, somebody that you may have looked up to or been a fan of, and they lose their life. And there's a grieving process that comes along with that, even for strangers. I don't think that's abnormal, because like I said earlier, even when it's somebody that I don't know, if I see somebody else grieving a person, it does affect me. And I think it's human nature. I think it's something that we need to normalize more, instead of teasing each other or making a mockery out of somebody grieving somebody that they don't necessarily know. For me, like it's just the concept of life and death, man. Like just from human to human. Again, death being something that's difficult for most of us to process, because it's so final, right? When you lose somebody, that's it. You're never going to speak to that person again. You're never going to be able to spend time with that person again. For a lot of people, there's a denial stage that comes along with that, where you're just kind of in disbelief. But I think that all of those things are normal feelings, whether you knew the person or not. Because sometimes it could just be somebody else that you know of that knew that person, and you grieve with them. I think that that's completely normal, and it's not something that I'm ashamed of, right? Like Mr. Wig, Donald could tell you about this. Just as an example, when Tupac died. Man, when Tupac died, I was grieving for months. And
Yeah,
I
that's
never knew
real.
him, but I was a real big fan. I was working part time at Pizza Hut at the time, and when I got the news that Tupac died, I called my boss and I told him that I wouldn't be coming in to work for a little while because my brother just passed. Um, Maybe a few weeks after that, I shaved my head bald. So the rest of my senior year in high school, I was walking around with a bald head and wearing bandanas. And people tease me and talk shit about it. But for me, it was like, man, look, I really did lose somebody that I felt was close to me. I felt connected to him through his music. And you know, in particular, like the Me Against the World CD, the Me Against the World album that had the Dear Mama single. That Dear Mama single is really what opened up the door for me and Tupac. And this is somebody that I've never met, but I felt like I knew him. So when I lost him, I grieved. I grieved for a long time about it. So I don't think that that's abnormal. And if anybody else has
Okay.
experiences like that,
And
Mm.
go ahead,
Okay.
and
Mr.
Can
Rogers.
y'all
I think
hear?
we can hear you.
Can y'all can y'all hear me a little better now? Is it
yeah,
better?
you're a
Yes.
lot clearer.
Okay, sorry. I just looked and saw that I was not tapped into my Wi-Fi, so forgive me for that. Well, no, what I was asking, and thank you for your feedback and everyone else their feedback. So my mom died when I was 6 weeks old. Matter of fact, let's see, today's the 29th of June, so 30 days from today is the anniversary of that date, July 29th, 1979. So my question was that, how does one grieve in that aspect for someone that they didn't know? Like, for
Can
example,
I?
I know I
I
followed
can answer that one.
all these years without her presence. It was tough. Yes, I had both of my grandmothers, but just that, like all my friends and people, different ones, everybody like they had their mama and I didn't have mine. You know what I'm saying? I know I grieved in like that aspect. Um, but yeah, I can, like I have no recollection or memory. Like I can only go off of what people tell me about her. So anyway, that's where I was going with that.
I can answer that.
And I'm gonna come after you, Donald. Go ahead.
You heard me say my mother in 2019. Uh,
Yes.
I'm exposing this to y'all. Rod do know this. I was actually adopted, so that was my adoptive mother. I actually, my mother, my biological mother, lost me and my little brother to the system when I was like 5. So I actually have a memory of my mother. Uh, Matter of fact, I met a guy on the bus stop the year she died looking for her. Hadn't heard from her from the time that they sealed the records. They lost, like they took my name, gave it. My name was originally Rhodes. Now it's Wiggins. They sealed the records, all that. I found out that my mother passed away in 2010 when an ex girlfriend of mine looked it up and found an obituary. And then next after that, about 2014, I found my baby sister, which is the last child my mother had. Uh, it's different, you know. It's not the same that the same. It's not the same grief I had with my adoptive mother, you know, because that connection was severed, and it was severed forever. You know, my sister, she hurts a lot because she had more time. She got to see her more. But once I see my mother in the orange jumpsuit when I was 7 years old in the courtroom. She gave me a Chico stick. That's why I love Chico sticks to this day. But I ain't never seen her again.
I just want to chime in and say, not from experience, but I think I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier when I was talking that we grieve different for different people. And one of the things that I want to lead with is that we have to be okay with how we process things, right? Um, Even me telling myself, like sometimes I get so caught up in asking myself, is this normal? Is this okay? Am I tripping? Instead of just being in the moment, feeling it. You know what I'm saying? So I think when you are grieving someone that you don't know, but it's family, I think you're grieving the potential for that relationship. You're grieving all the what ifs. You're grieving all the memories that could have been created that you're missing out on. And sometimes it turns to anger. Sometimes it can be resentment, depending on the situation. But I would encourage you to be intentional about just being in a moment when you feel what you feel and accepting that. Like, something could pop up and you could be like, dang, I wish my mom was here for this. Like, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to have that relationship, but just knowing that you came from her lineage, knowing that without her, there would be no you. So just even basking in that and honoring that, because that's essential to your being today, if that makes sense and if that's helpful.
Yes, and thank you for that. So my father's mom is the one that I spent like most of my time with. Like, that's matter of fact, that's who I call mama. That's who I thought was my mother. um, and she passed back in 2005. So I'm gonna tell you that right there it was the most agonizing thing ever, because that was my mama that I knew was my mama. So anyway, but now, like with my own mother, like for example, I'm a grandmother now. I just became a grandmother, a couple of months ago. So watching my grandson come into the world, and just like in all seriousness, just that moment, it was just like a whole spiritual moment for it. But I swear I felt felt some type of presence in that moment. I don't know if it was her, my grandma. I don't. It was all hell. I don't know if it was all the ancestors. Okay, but it was. If I was to put it in just one word, magical for real. But whatever. But yeah, but yeah, just the moments like I done birthed through 3 kids. Like, it's those moments like, okay, well, dang, she was here for this, that kind of thing. Or, and just not those, like, just, I mean, everything. Like, the pick up the phone and call her and talk to her and about some stuff or get advice, or, just that whole, mama daughter thing. And then really honestly, at times I find myself wondering, like, really, what type of relationship would we had? But I guess I'd hope that it would have been, if she was still with us today, that it would have been a good one. She was, that we were good. Like, I have a daughter, and um she's the only girl, and so like when I had her, it's like, okay, um yeah, so our
That's a
relationship
nice
is
little different perspective.
yeah,
You went from death
our
to life with that one.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to actually hop in because you said something, Mr. Raji, that hit me, and you were like, you don't know if it was the ancestors or if your mom's spirit was there. And, I know that people might have different perspective, but I do believe that, as we live with our loved ones, parts of them break off into us. So I also didn't introduce myself, this princess, y'all. But, I lost my father. I talked about that in the last griefing. But there are times where I'm walking or I'm working or I'm frustrated and I just hear like his thoughts or things that he would have said to me. And it's like he broke off pieces of himself in me that sometimes flourish in my inner thoughts, but sometimes I feel it resonating from me. So maybe you were feeling that in that moment, right? Maybe there were pieces of your ancestors, your lost loved ones, your lost mother that was resonating off of you and you just didn't even recognize it.
I agree. I agree 1,000%.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
Can
I agree
Yeah.
with that.
I think we also have to look at it as hard as it may sound. It could be a blessing. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's to say? And I don't want this to come across disrespectful, but I'm just speaking like, who's to say that one's presence would have made a better impact if they were here? You know,
Ah, yeah, yeah. True, true. I not on even.
I'm trying to
I
teeter
get
on
it.
how to say it without, coming across like I'm, saying you're better
I
off
get it.
without your parent, because we get it. But sometimes some things just aren't meant to be questioned. Like embracing, again, like I said, like even looking at how your relationship is with your children and your grandchildren, like that molded you, that built your character, that gives you a different perspective on how to be there and how to love them in a different way, as long as it's positive, of course. But I used to be like
Yeah,
angry
that's
when certain
another.
people left, and then it's just like I look back on it like them leaving actually sparked something in me to do something better, to do something different. Like if they were still here, maybe I would be enabling on them to be what they was when they were here, or what I may have thought that I needed. But because they're not here, it allowed me to branch off into this bigger, better version of me. I don't know, just a thought.
I agree. Listen. I wanted to chime in because energy doesn't go away. It only transfers, right? And so when I lost my father back in 2011, and my father, he was battling polycystic kidney disease for years leading up into his death. It was a very painful struggle for him. I can remember times, him being in the hospital, for days at a time because of pain and issues that he was having that led up to the kidney failure. But I just remember one of the things that I always admired and looked up to my pops about was I always felt like he was just super strong. I felt like he was always able to make light out of a situation to make those around him feel better. He was a jokester, and he would continue to be his authentic self even throughout some of the health issues that he was having. And so I always admired him for that, and I always thought to myself, I would say to myself, like, man, I don't know how Pops do it. He's a lot better than me at just being strong and just kind of being that source of hope because he never let it keep him down. Right. I say all that to say that the moment that my pops left this earth, I felt this strength come over me that I had never felt before. And I've always explained that to myself, like that was the piece of himself that he immediately gave to me, and so it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart. I truly do believe that, and since that moment, I've become a little bit more emotionally intelligent to kind of pay attention to those things because there are times where you feel the presence of your lost loved ones in different moments, even if it's just for brief moments. Going back to what Miss Taraji was talking about with her losing her mother before she actually was able to develop a relationship with her. That's my youngest brother's story. I lost, I was 14 when my mother died, and my younger brother was one. He had just turned one, and so he doesn't have any memories of her. That's something that I've always, there's been times where I'll ask him about that, but that's a real interesting dynamic because there are times when I am grieving about my mother being gone, just from thinking about or talking to my younger brother who never knew him. So I don't know if that would be considered me kind of projecting what I'm feeling inside and feeling like he must be feeling something. But one of the other things is, my younger brother, he had a daughter a few years back, and man, I see traces of my mother's mother. I feel their spirit, I feel their soul when I'm around my niece, and I know that that's real. I know that that's not something that I'm imagining in my head. whether it's mannerisms, it's facial expressions, it's just, attitude or sass in general. I feel that. I feel that same energy that I'm familiar with from folks that, my brother or his daughter never knew. So definitely, I think the energy transfers. I think that our loved ones, our ancestors, we all get a piece of them because their energy stays in this world and it carries on. So it's really just up to us in how we use that energy. So that's what I wanted to chime in on. I'll let somebody else go.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. But because when it comes to that, my when I talk to my sister, she says that to me. Even my uncle, he's in prison right now, but he talks to me. It's my mother's younger brother, and both of them tells me the same thing. My mannerism, like a certain smirk, and it's that DNA, man. It's that that love of family. It's what God has, placed in all of us, throughout our generations of our bloodline. So yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree.
How are we doing, everyone?
Hello,
What's
Marcus,
going on,
man. How
brother
you
Marcus?
doing, brother?
Hey, life is good. Life is good. I just wanted to chime in real quick before my audio and everything started going out. Um, so we're in a spiritual battle. It's a spiritual war for your hope, because your hope is your fuel that keeps you going. And so there's been a plan set for each of our lives. I've been knowing Rodney it's been over 20 plus years. And even in the time of our meeting and being put together, it was put together for a reason. And so, just to kind of give you a little background, dealing with grief within itself, and I'm going off of personal experiences there. So roughly about 5 years ago, 5 to 7 years ago, I don't remember, I lost one of my elder siblings. So I'm the youngest out of seven children. And the sibling that we ended up burying actually walked in on me trying to commit suicide as a teenager. And one of the toughest things that there was for me to do was to perform the eulogy over him. So you have older siblings that have changed my diapers. You got my parents. Both of my parents are still living. But even though it was hard, there was a strength that was there. That strength didn't come from myself or anyone else that was within my family. It was a spiritual thing. And so once I was able to make it through that situation, and really didn't make it through it, but just walking through it, I heard someone ask, well, how do you prepare for it? You really can't prepare for it. How do you prepare for the unknown? The unknown, yes, we may know someone, a loved one is going to pass, but when? We don't know. So we don't know. So, but it was after that I was elevated to a position and, started my walk as a pastor. It was one of those tests. Can you handle this? Can you handle some of the toughest things that are in front of you? Still be encouraging, still speak life, and be able to hold your head up. Now, did I mourn during that time? It probably took me 2 years, and it was just something down in my soul. I woke up out of my sleep crying because I was loaning and mourning for an elder sibling. And so the way that I see this thing is that we're being drawn in to the Lord, Jesus Christ. That's what I believe in. Whatever you believe in, do what you do. But I have to speak from my perspective. Having failed, trying to commit suicide multiple times, there's a purpose that's in my life. And it's not until you are fulfilling that purpose that you truly feel fulfillment. You can do 1,001 things, but it's not until you are aligned with what God has set for you. That's the only way that you're going to feel that fulfillment. that's going to be the only way that we can rest in not knowing all of our DNA and all of those things that we may have missed on, and my father not being there, and then and the abuse and some of the other things that came about. But being engrafted into this spiritual world, man, it's fulfilling because I don't have to worry about all of those things. Because if I have to worry about those, there are some curses that I'm gonna end up passing on to my children, and some other things that I may not want them to have. And so one of the things that we can do is really just modeling what it is to keep moving forward. Yes, there will be times for us to mourn, and I don't want to sound callous or anything else, but what else do you do besides keep moving? And so I'll digress on that, but that was my 2 cents before my audio and everything started going out.
Right on, right on, brother Marcus. That's deep, bro. That's deep, and I agree wholeheartedly. I agree wholeheartedly. That's all I'm gonna say.
I like the last part that he said about um, continuing on. Like, I think sometimes we get complacent and we allow our trauma and we allow our grief to leave us stagnant. Um, my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law passed away when I was 3 months pregnant, so she was still 16. And we just had a talk maybe a year or so ago, and she was just kind of talking about how she still feels like she's stuck at the age of 16. And I think that is the issue. Like, I agree with pressing through, pressing on. I don't agree with doing it without healthy, intentional acts of healing, but you can't stay stagnant in the moment that you lost something or someone, or that trauma was inflicted on you, or that you experienced pain. Um, I'm real big on accountability. And I think even in a healing journey, you have to have people around you that are going to hold you accountable to one, doing the work, so that you can heal, and being able to call you out on your BS when you need to be called out. Because sometimes we start wearing our pain, we start wearing our grief, and we start making it our characteristics, right? We start telling ourselves this is just who I am, when in essence it's who we're choosing to be. So you have to wake up, like Rodney said, he wakes up intentionally and sometimes has to recalibrate himself. Like, that is an intentional act. That is a, I'm going to get up and I know that if I want to have a good day, this is something that must be done. We have to make sure that we are doing the must do's so that we can start living healthy, prosperous lives, even while we're grieving, even while we're healing from trauma, even after we're moving through and moving on from past pain. So I really liked what the pastor just said, and it just, that thought just sparked in my mind. So
I wanna compound on that because you know you made a comment earlier, Miss Devon, that I totally agree with. We do kind of get pushed and pressured to move on sometimes, right? Chin up, chest out, right? And so I just want to spend a couple of moments just to address that because society doesn't, and this is for all communities, not just the black community. I think the society does not provide any sort of space to grieve, right? I think we live in this world where it's like life goes on, next man up. The show must go on, right? And that can be difficult for some people to process, especially when they're new to grieving. To if it's somebody that they lost for the first time, it's the first time that they're experiencing loss of life, right? So I just want to acknowledge that it's not always easy to move on. So you do have to have, like Ms. Devon said, you do have to have people in your circle, people in your tribe that are going to be understanding, that are not going to let you stay in certain places, but also do that in a healthy enough way to keep you staying encouraged. And that's a challenge I think for everybody in all communities, just because of the way that society does with life and death. You know, we lose people left and right, and life goes on. You still got to get up and go to work. You know, depending on what industry you work in or what position that you in, you may not even have days for grieving that you can take off. You know, unless it meets a certain criteria with the relationship that you have with that person. So it is definitely a challenge, and I don't want anybody to think that it's easy to do that. Right? You know, moving on, there is a process, and for me, I always say this. I say this all the time, but I think that healing is a daily journey. I think that every day our body has to rest, recharge, and heal, and start all over again. So you may have had a great day the day before, and then the next day you wake up and you like, man, why do I feel so down? Why do I feel like this? I thought that I was past this obstacle, this hump. That's normal. Those are normal feelings. I feel those feelings all of the time, and I don't want anybody to be discouraged if you find yourself sort of in that back and forth. I think that's part of the process, and society doesn't really give us a space. Because a lot of the times, what I mean by that, I'm not even just talking about days off, but just the space to even talk about to help you process what you're feeling. It was years. It was years and years and years before I opened up to any other human being about the way that I felt about grieving and death. You know, I'm talking about a decade or more before I even felt comfortable enough to open up to people around me. So I don't want anybody to feel discouraged if you are feeling that cycle that seems like it's never ending, and you do struggle with trying to move on.
I want to piggyback on what you said on that. You know how some people have that feeling of I don't know why. You know, and
Hmm.
I think that it's good and that we should encourage people to reach out, for, additional help. Sometimes we grieve and then we feel like that we have to pick up our own self and pull up by our own bootstraps. When what we have to do is it's the crab in the barrel effect in reverse. We have to grab a hold of each other and give those words of encouragement if you have to. And not saying that you have to, but if you have to, seek professional help. That's how you figure out what those whys are and how you feeling and how to deal with that. Because if you don't really identify what those feelings are, then how are you going to be able to, find a solution? So I just wanted to add and chime in on that piece.
Yeah, that's real.
I am a big advocate for mental health. I believe everybody should seek therapy. So that will always be my stance because I feel like if we can encourage everybody to go to the doctor or the dentist, therapists are the same. They're the doctor for the brain, they're the doctor for the emotion, and it is absolutely necessary. And I feel like our communities would be a lot better if we use the resource as a proactive state instead of a reactive state. Um, Go and get tools. Like one of the things that I even learned in my Christian walk is you go to church and you hear these sermons, and it, for lack of better words, kind of sounds like mumbo jumbo. But when you go through life and something triggers you to fall back on that scripture that you heard umpteen years ago, because it's in you, it can come out of you. And I feel like if you go to therapy and you start getting tools to process, tools to self identify, tools to self reflect, then when things happen, you're equipped, and you can be in a space to be like, hey, I'm not feeling my quote unquote normal self. And it'll be an identifier for you to go seek support. And it doesn't necessarily at that point have to be from a therapist, but whatever you need to do to cope at that time with whatever was triggered. So like I said, I'm an advocate for mental health. I'm an advocate for therapy because it doesn't make you crazy to go. I think it makes you crazy if you don't go. So, just piggybacking
Say
off
that.
what was said, I definitely feel like everybody should have a great circle of support, and within that circle have some form of professional mental a professional mental resource, whether it's a therapist, a life coach, any type of coaching, wellness, just somebody that you can reach out to, like the pastor said, to just kind of make sure that you can get those whys answered, because you will run yourself raggedy. You'll run yourself in a circle and find yourself in a dark rabbit hole because you're trying to answer a question that you're not equipped to answer. And that goes for death, that goes for grief, that goes for loss, that goes for trauma, that goes for pain. We sometimes ask ourselves questions when we're not equipped or experienced enough to answer them. But there are so many people out here that are doing the work, getting grants and loans so that they can be available to you. So I encourage everybody to utilize the resources that are afforded to us. For so long, we've been isolated, we've been shunned out, we've been miseducated, misinformed. We have so many tools, we have so many resources, we have so many people that can connect us to the things that we need to be better. We got to stop letting those things go to waste.
I mean, I 100% agree with you, Miss Devin. You made a comment about being proactive instead of reactive as it pertains to our mental health. In seeking professional help. I feel the exact same way. I tell people that all the time. But it wasn't something that I really started to feel until I actually started to go to therapy. It wasn't until I actually, because I was one of those people. I didn't go to therapy until I was in my 30s. And, you know, prior to that, I come from the same urban community that we all come from, where there's a stigma, it's taboo, you don't, if you go into therapy or you need a therapist or a head doctor, then you must be crazy. And so I always did feel that way. And it's interesting because I didn't even, when I actually started going to therapy, I didn't necessarily believe that I needed it, right? And it wasn't until I actually sat down and started talking about some of the things that I had went through, that it started to kind of change my mindset about it. And since that moment, I've always told people, it's like, if you go to, your primary care doctor, your dentist, to do checkups, to do proactive things, to keep track of your health in that aspect, your mental health needs to be treated the same way. Because far often we see this far too often in our community where somebody has reached their breaking point. They've never been treated. They're going around untreated. They have all of this trauma that is unresolved. And then everybody has a threshold. Everybody's threshold is different. Some people are going to be stronger and able to withstand things in a different manner than others. But every human has a threshold and a breaking point. You don't want to have to come face to face with that breaking point, before you actually can kind of prepare and be proactive about those things. So I wholeheartedly agree, because you're never really going to know where you are mentally unless you've been evaluated mentally. So it's always been a head scratcher for me for those people that say, hey, I feel fine, I don't need to go to therapy. I'm like Miss Devin. I feel like everybody needs therapy just like everybody needs a dentist. So, you would look at somebody funny if they told you, man, I'm cool, I brush my teeth every day, I don't need to go to the dentist. I look at people the same way when it comes to mental health treatment.
I'm going to throw a shameless plug in there real quick. So, hoping that everybody on here follows the podcast Blacked Out Couch. The sisters did a podcast, our last episode. I wasn't a part of it, but I definitely tuned in, and they were talking about financial woes. And in that conversation, they were talking about life insurance. So, I think it's only appropriate as well when we're talking about being accountable and holding each other accountable to make sure that I mention the importance of life insurance in our community. I'm so tired, so tired of seeing GoFundMe accounts because we are being insensitive and not having enough care, love, and respect for our loved ones that we're leaving such a burden on them. Just over this last weekend, I seen a young lady out enjoying her birthday and gets murdered on her birthday and leaves two young babies behind and they can't bury her. Not just can they not bury her, what's going to happen to her two young kids that still have 16 plus years to grow up. You know what I'm saying? So if you are not a part of Blacked Out, if you haven't watched, Blacked Out Couch podcast, I know Rodney has them posted. If you can pin them to the top of our group, go watch it. It's tons of resources listed in these podcasts, y'all. Like the people that are speaking are mental health professionals. They're professionals in different resources that will benefit and grow our community. It has to start with us. We have to care about ourselves first, but we have to care about our community enough to make sure that we're not um, basically turning ourselves to be extinct. Like in a minute, it's just like we're killing each other. We're not taking care of ourselves. Like there's so many resources that are becoming available to us. So many people talking about mental health that it's a trend now. Jump on it. Respectfully, jump on this one. Like we jump on every bandwagon with sports and teams. Jump on the bandwagon of getting your life right mentally, spiritually, financially, physically, emotionally, the holistic approach.
I got a question,
Absolutely.
y'all. I got a question.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
That Chicago situation, okay? With the young man punching on that lady. You know, thinking about all that and assessing the situation, I heard that there was a gun slid on the floor. I'm not sure. It was kind of blurry. I couldn't tell whether or not it was a gun or not. But long story short, I'm getting. If you noticed how, yeah, the guy was wrong. You know what I mean? As two left shoes. You know, and these type of times that we live in, you know, anything can happen. Anything is possible. But my question is this is why is everyone so happy that man was killed?
Let me answer the question because I'm one of those people that uh, kind of celebrated what happened to that man. For me, man, like it's black and white. It's plain and simple. It's seeing that man put his hands on that woman in the manner that he did because he could have killed her. With the way that he was cocking back, and for me, it was an automatic triggering situation because I did witness my mother being abused by her boyfriend, my stepfather, before her untimely death. And so I've always felt very, very strongly about violence towards women, and I get triggered very, very easily about that, right? So for me, once I seen the video footage of him actually attacking her, all of my sympathy went out the window for that situation. So I'm not ashamed to say that. For me, it was something that I projected because once I seen him abusing that black woman like that, whatever he got coming to him at that point, in my mind was deserved. And Lord forgive me for feeling like that, but that's the way that I felt.
Okay. I kind of agree, you know what I mean? Because the whole thing is this, it's like we living in the times right now where, you gotta be respectful to people. You know what I mean? Of course, I'm pretty sure that, if that man had the chance to do it again, he would do it different. You know what I mean? But to me, there's some people out there that have a heart, for the people. And then there's some people out there that have a heart against the people. You know what I mean? That's selfish, that's all about themselves. You know what I mean? I felt bad a little bit that, I think that if he would have looked, listened a little bit more, paid a little bit attention more, maybe, it's like there's no way that there was no, I don't care what you could tell by her demeanor that she didn't do nothing that bad to even put his hands on her. So he definitely deserved it. You know what I mean? But I'm just talking about the way that society now is celebrating death. He
Yeah,
deserved it.
we get
But
insensitive. I agree. It's a very insensitive thing. And it's a deep conversation because it's about accountability, right? We as black people, we sometimes we stand behind our loved ones knowing that they on bullshit, right? I did that. I did that with a lot of my loved ones throughout the years. Stood behind them because that's my folks, right? And I think that's problematic. It's toxic in our community. At some point, somebody has to stand up and say, "Hey, listen, I know that this was somebody that was near and dear and close to me, but they were wrong in that instance." And from what I've seen, Donald, just to keep talking about that specific situation, there's been no remorse from the family at all, from what I've seen. The family has there's posts out there. There's think pieces from the family. Their family is in some of the comments on some of these posts, and they show no remorse. And sometimes, I think for those of us that are insensitive and that may be celebrating some of these situations, sometimes we can get stopped in our track just by having some accountability on the other end. And so when somebody does some sort of harm to somebody in our family or in our community, and then that the other side, doesn't show any sort of remorse, I think that contributes to the way some of this um, celebrating, like you put it, celebrating the death. I wouldn't go as far as to say I celebrated it, but I didn't have no remorse, man. Like, or no, not remorse, but I didn't have any sympathy or empathy, and I haven't had any for the family. The way that he put his hands on her, there's no way that was the first time that he put his hands on a woman. And then his girlfriend is there in the video, and she's in the background saying, "Now he done told you to be quiet." So and I lost all feelings of empathy watching that footage, man. And I think that might be the case for a lot of us. Just seeing the way that event played out, it's hard to feel sorry or to feel some sort of grief or just being sensitive to those that may be grieving for that person. So that's definitely a good question and a good talking point for us to speak on. But I'll be the first to admit it, man. Like I lost all empathy and sympathy when I seen the way that he attacked her.
hmm, yeah, man. See, that's the thing. You know what I mean? Like Pastor was talking. I I I look everything that's happening through a biblical lens. The love of many shall wax cold. And it's he also said that when I shall return, shall I find faith on the earth? It's hard when like it's nothing but straight trauma and death and deception and it's just a whole attack on the human race and these little talks, these things that we talking about right now actually, helps what we're doing. You know what I mean? We just want to try to get it bigger and make it better and reach a lot of people to get this information. It's out there, yeah, but every each one teach one, everyone each one reach one. So I appreciate, man, the answer to the question, man. Just wanted to get the floor back. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think we still, all of us as a community and as individuals, I think that we still got a journey ahead of us. I think that we're taking steps in our own right to try to encourage others to join us on this journey. But it's an uphill battle. We still have a lot to learn. We have a lot to grow from. And that's one of those situations as a community. I'll say one other thing, and I know we have to wrap it up. I'm kind of looking at time, but Mr. Wig, just to give you another perspective, right? We see a lot of police brutality out here in our community, right? There's been a lot of people that have lost loved ones to police violence. Uh, Unarmed black people are killed at a very alarming rate, and if those tables were turned, I don't think that it would be any difference in the situation as far as celebrating death. So if somebody seen a video, if that man had been a police officer and started attacking that woman in that manner, and somehow somebody pulled out a gun and took that officer's life, I think that it would be kind of the same reaction from the community. I think that for me, that situation, my lack of empathy or sympathy was based upon seeing a black woman abused, and I didn't care who that person was at that point, and I just I bring up the cop factor because I do think that we there have been instances where we would have preferred to see harm done to an officer versus seeing that officer harm somebody that's unarmed. And so that's one of the situations that I think about, and I just wanted to kind of give that perspective.
I think I agree with that, Rod. I do. I think I agree with that. I don't think it would matter, you know, if that would have been a politician, if that would have
Hmm.
been, God forbid, a pastor, that could have been anybody,
Hmm.
that did that to that woman. You know what I mean? Holly Rod, you and I both, we've been knowing each other for 20 plus years. You know what I
30
mean?
plus, 30 plus,
30
man. Get
plus,
it
yeah,
right.
30
Get it
plus
right.
actually.
Yeah.
If I did that, as much as you love me as my brother, you would not stand for that.
Hmm. Mhm.
And
And I
vice
wouldn't stand.
versa.
I wouldn't stand for seeing you do that. That was the other thing. That's why I brought up his family and his support system. It's like, I brought up the girlfriend. Man, my wife. It ain't no way in hell, man. Nowhere on earth we could be. My wife would not stand by and watch me attack another woman like that. And so, yeah, I agree, man. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, but that's where your tribe comes into play, man. Like, we have to have uh, the positive influences around us, and that I think that's what the story behind that situation. That man ain't have no positive influences around him. They were encouraging him to be toxic, to be abusive, and even in death, they still show no remorse for that, and that's a problem in our community, man. Like Ms. Davis mentioned earlier, we become so numb to the concept of death and violence, and that's where we dropping the ball. I think as a community, we gotta start holding each other accountable, because the bottom line is we all are loved by somebody. And I just think that accountability has to be the next phase that we all start to kind of gravitate towards, man. Like, there's a such thing as still having love and support for somebody close to you, but also, challenging them to have principles and good morals. And so I try to surround myself with those type of people, man. Like the people, it's a couple of brothers in the room that you have known me 20 and 30 plus years. I've kept them in my life for that long because they encourage me in the right direction versus that dark path. And so I think that's something that we need to make note of and acknowledge.
And just from a woman's perspective, I don't want to fake and act like I wasn't celebrating it because when I was watching it, it triggered me. And it was crazy because I also had a conversation with my son because, of course, these kids are on social media more than me. So he brought it to me. And I asked him, like, how would you respond? And it brought me back to another shameless plug where we were talking about, are women and children protected by the black man? And I just thought, like, watching that video, how everybody scurried and everybody was okay recording Like that wasn't a normal punch to me. Like, you could see somebody want to smack you, or, oh, you pissed me off, I'm gonna punch you. But just the impact, the lean back, just the whole demeanor of how aggressive he was with her, and she formed no threat. I get, like, at us as a woman, a black woman, our tongue can be real lethal, but I don't find that as an excuse for us to be treated in the manner that she was. So my prayer was only one, that his daughters are raised and understand what happened, and that they're not following in the footsteps of more than likely what they've been seeing, because you don't have that kind of aggression for a stranger if you haven't done it before in your own regular life. And so I as a woman, was kind of like, he got what he got. And I've chuckled at some of the memes that social media relentlessly shares, because the internet is ruthless. But I also just feel like that was an instance that, granted, could have been, um well, if he would have did something different, it definitely could have been different. But there was no protection, no, a chill, like, there was no intervention from the many of people that were standing there watching. And it's like, we've gotten to a place where we think everything is funny, and we do everything for likes, and it costs people their lives. Like, I get the fear of wanting to interject yourself because you want to also make it home to your family, but there's just, like, we've literally had to dummy ourselves down as a people just to ensure that we can get home safe. And I don't know what that means when it comes back to, is there protection for women and children?
Yeah, and I agree. I agree 1,000% with that because it's like, um, and I was one of those people. Like, I threw a bunch of memes. I saw a lot of stuff that I laughed at. But again, like I said, it was everything was rooted in the fact that this is a black woman, and it bothered me just watching the footage because, like Ms. Devin mentioned, that restaurant was full of people. There were men in there, there were women in there, and nobody intervened. And that to me is just that's a tragedy in many different ways. It speaks a lot to what we see in our community. There is a lack of protection with black women and children, and for me, like when I see somebody taking advantage of that, taking advantage of the lack of protection that some of our sisters have, because we don't know what the situation was with that mother and her son. We don't know, where the father is or what man or males are in their lives. But in that instance, it was just, a mother and her son out to get something to eat, and nobody there protected them. So for me, I've always believed I'm a spiritual person as well. I believe the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I did. I felt like that man got what he deserved because nobody else, intervened to step in and help. And it is something that we become desensitized to. But in that situation, what are we really being insensitive to? Are we being insensitive to the fact that man lost his life, or are we being more insensitive to what he did to lose his life? Great talking points, though, y'all. Great talking points. I'm looking at the time. It's about 7:15. So I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Did anybody else have any questions or comments that they wanted to throw in as we wrap up?
Hey, Rod, man, I just say thank you, brother. You know what I mean, for the invite, brother. You know what I
Right
mean?
on.
As much as I can, man. I do get a busy schedule sometimes, man. But every chance I get, I'm gonna come in there. I started following everybody that was in the room that commented and everything, man. So, I won't be a stranger. And nice to meet everybody in the room.
Right on. Right on, bro. You're welcome, bro. We appreciate you. Appreciate everybody for joining this session of briefing. This is going to be something that we try to do periodically. This is a joint venture that we partner with Lifted KC, Devin's organization. They came up with this wonderful idea to do these group sessions to kind of help the community and grieve and pray together. For anybody that hasn't had an opportunity to check out the podcast, we do have the Blacked Out Couch podcast available on all of your podcast apps. We also have it on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and listen in on that. We will have another episode of the Blacked Out Couch, episode featuring the brothers that'll be airing next Thursday at 5:40 p.m. Central on all of those platforms. So make sure you tune in to that. We're going to be talking about broken homes and generational curses. We had a very compelling conversation, so I encourage everybody to check that out. And as always, the week after each podcast episode, we meet back here on Clubhouse where you are right now to do an unpacking of that episode. So we encourage everybody, man, to just follow us on this healing journey in this movement, and we just appreciate y'all, man. We appreciate everybody for joining in.
I ditto all those sentiments. Appreciate everybody for coming out, taking the time, opening up, and just having conversation. The healing process and the community of healing won't work if we don't have other people to engage with. So I just thank y'all for being like minded. Whoever brought you here, whatever brought you here, I pray that it brings you back. We will have the list posted so that we can make sure that we are intentional about community prayer for everyone listed on the Say Their Name list. And again, I hope to see you guys back. Tune in to the podcast. Go like Lifted KC on Facebook and just stay connected with us because our partnerships, we're really looking to do bigger and better things within our community, and we're going to need like-minded people supporting and following us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, again, thank everybody for joining. Hopefully, everybody enjoys the rest of their night as we head into this weekend. Everybody, try to be safe. I know, we heading into a holiday weekend with Independence Day, so everybody be safe. Love on your loved ones because tomorrow is not promised, and we definitely got to come together as a community in spaces like this. So, I appreciate everybody for joining, and we'll see y'all next time.